Say there, Mr. Orton.
Hey, John, just testing if you could hear us. Hey, Mark, can you hear us on the audio?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 25th Oconee County Board of Commissioners agenda setting meeting. Chairman Daniel and Commissioner Saxon will be joining us virtually, and we'll be participating. For the ease of operation, the chairman asked me to chair the meeting here in person. If you're participating over Zoom and you'd like to speak on a specific item, please use the raise hands feature. At this time, I'd like for us to stand for a moment of silence. And also, I'd like to ask County Clerk Holly Stevenson to lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Gentlemen, we need to remove item 4.1 on the agenda that's related to the supplemental bond resolution and the IGA with the Development Authority. That meeting we'll discuss in just a moment has been postponed.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of 4.1.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, we have on the agenda time for statements from and remarks from citizens. If there's anyone here in the audience tonight that'd like to speak about any item other than what's on the agenda, or if you're on Zoom, you can participate by raising your hand. All right. If not, thank you very much. At this time, we will allow statements, remarks from the other commissioners. There is one report that due to the market conditions, the bond price resolution that we had scheduled for today has been rescheduled for Thursday, January 27th at 5 p.m., where we'll hold a call meeting to consider this resolution. The IDA meeting earlier today was canceled as well and been rescheduled till Thursday at 4 o'clock. That's the only announcement I have. Commissioners, y'all have anything? I don't. All right. Thank you. We'll move into the next items of the resolution, ordinances, and policies. The first and the only item we have on there is proposed updates to the physical ordinance to be presented by Wes Gettings. Wes?
Thank you, Commissioner Harden, Board. Appreciate your time
Yes.
tonight. Every 2 to 3 years, to stay current, we try to look at our ordinances and update those as dictates. And so I just want to talk to you about a few updates. I got a couple of tables I'm going to show you. I'm going to talk about a procurement card program manual that we have devised to be in alignment with the state's policy. And then just some kind of pen and ink changes on some of our ordinance stuff. So most of these documents run upwards of about 5,000 words. So I won't bore you with that. You have it in your packet. But I will just talk about a couple of charts that really are going to impact the operations probably in the greatest manner. So without further ado, our first one is table 1, and this is part of our fiscal ordinance for Oconee County. So you'll see the top part is our current fiscal ordinance as it stands, and then the bottom part is our updated fiscal ordinance. So just want to talk a little bit about the highlights there. In that table, what we're going to do is change the verbal quotes, and this is all proposed, as you know. We're proposing to change those verbal quotes from 3 to 1, and for certain dollar limits. So the current policy right now is for 3 for purchases from $2,000 to $5,000. And so we want to change that to 1, and that will really ease the administrative burden. And also for some services, it's hard to get to track folks down and get 3 verbal quotes on many of those. Then from 5 to 10, we'll go to 2 verbal quotes from the existing 3. And then from 10 to 25,000, there'll still be 3 written quotes. The $20,000 bid limit for competitive seal bids and formal seal proposals, we're proposing to go to $25,000. So that increases at 5,000. That also will probably reduce the number of bids that we have to do. We estimate about 15 to 16%, looking at historical levels. So anything between that 25,000 will match the state of Georgia's fiscal policy as far as the bid limit, which we thought was really good to match the state. Then from 25 to 100,000, the county administrator will administrate those through our process, and then what stays the same is 100,000 comes to the Board of Commissioners. So that would these 2 charts there's a lot of verbiage in here that goes into further detail, but those dollar limits and changing the procurement method on the quotes, and then the approval level remains the same, but the dollar limits would change. So big one is the 20 to 25,000. And so we think that will reduce some of the administrative burden there. Next one, this is table 2. This is also a table within our fiscal policy. It's just a quick look table where if you're looking to see, well, when can I get paid on their payment procedures, these are the procedures. So The first one is our current, and there are 4 methods that we outline, and then the second one is the updated proposal. So you'll notice the financial transaction card goes to purchasing card. And so I'm going to talk to you about the purchasing card program through the Bank of America in the state of Georgia, and how we've applied for that. And I'll give you an update on that a little later, but the purchasing card will dramatically change some of our methodology here. Currently, we use a system of credit cards and other financial type transaction cards. So we'll go to a P card, is what it's commonly called. Payment on that is immediate as it's swiped. The automatic clearinghouse, ACH, we're going to move that from 20 days down to 10 days. That's in our current policy, but we're changing the days of payment. And then the checks, 30 days. Again, checks is our hardest method of payment because they have to be mailed or picked up in person, and it costs us anywhere from $40 to $60 per check to prepare, believe it or not, due to staff time and things like that. So there's a lot of technology out there electronically to allow us to update the fiscal ordinance. We thought now was the time, and so where we're at, that's where we're at with that. I'm going to talk to you about the pen and ink changes in this document, which is our Oconee County fiscal policy. I don't have slideshows for all of that because it's pretty extensive, meaning that it's 19 pages, but I'll just talk about a few highlights. Transfers within any fund below the government's legal level. This is the budget transfer process. So we've changed that to say with the concurrence of the finance director and the administrator. So that's just moving money within professional services or within, but not moving it from personal services over to supply and goods and things of that matter. And we think that'll help. That was something the department heads that have requested, and we discussed this at various retreats, and we're finally at that point. On page 5 of depository of funds, the Georgia Fund no longer has a Georgia Extended Asset Pool or GEAT Fund, so we just removed that from the language. It doesn't exist anymore. That was one of our deposit methods that we used over time. Page 10, procurement orders, purchase orders and contracts. So what we did there was remove some of the documents that said that it was $20,000. So the language is changed to match the chart here. So basically we struck through 20,000 and changed it to 25,000, things of that nature. Cooperative purchasing, county may participate in cooperative purchases for commodities. Example of that, the best example is that's how we buy our fire trucks right now. It's through a co-op. And so what we're proposing is that the finance director will determine what's in the best interest of the county. Sometimes using a cooperative agreement or state contract may not be fiscally the best option. So some of our carpeting jobs recently under state contract, it would have been $23,000, and we bid it out, we got it for around 16. So it was an $8,000 savings. So sometimes when you just go with the state contract, you're not getting all the savings. Sometimes it does save money, so it kind of could go either way. So we wanted to add that in there. Page 12, blanket POs. Struck through some things on the department level and what a BPO is, which is a blanket purchase order. We feel like when we go to the purchasing card method, that it's going to eliminate some of your blanket POs. And those are just accounts that we have with some stores here locally within the county borders that you go, and we have a lot of use of on a daily basis, whether it's your hardware store or your seed company and things like that. So fixed assets, just removing that part because we did a fiscal ordinance recently naming me as a surplus officer. And so we already have that as a separate ordinance. And so just removing that language from the fiscal policy, there's a separate policy on that. One of the last things was the personal, what we call special revenue management funds. These are small checking accounts. Each fire station has one. Various small agencies within the government that operate using our county ID, our tax ID. And so we want to change those accounts. Right now, by ordinance, they are allowed to have 5,000, and we're proposing 10,000. We have a few accounts that it takes more money to operate some of these fire stations for these small accounts than it did before. And this keeps us within the audit's good graces. So, you know, the audit, if you have $5,001 in the account, you're not in compliance. We just need to raise that level. So with that said, the assignment of fund balance is the last thing. That's page 16. And assignment of fund balance, I'm going to talk about this in the mid-year update here in a few minutes, but the assignment of fund balance is where during the budget process, we find out how much is in our fund balance and we assign specific areas for specific projects that the board wants to do in the coming year. And what we've asked is that has to be presented to the auditor. So what we would ask is that as we go through the budget process, at the end of that, if the finance director, with the concurrence of the chairman and the county administrator, may assign and also unassigned surplus funds that are retained in a fund balance for a specific purpose. Let's say we're doing a road improvement on one of our highways, and the board earmarks $1 million, and the project is concluded, and it's at 700,000 was the drive out price. Then we have to have the nimbleness, if you will, to unassign that 300,000 that was in excess, so that we can use that for another project. And that the auditor, when we go through the audit process, that's just something that's required. That's pretty much the pen and ink changes on that. Sorry to be so verbose. The final document on fiscal policy update is a 12-page document, and it's called the Oconee County Purchasing Card Program Manual. So this is a desktop guide for users of the Oconee County Procurement Card Program, and it's a user's guide, if you will. So we had to create that in order to be a participant in the state P-card program. So I'm just bringing that for proposal tonight. I'm not going to read all the details, but this one is a tried and true one that I'm not saying that we invented it, but there are a lot of counties that have this. And so we took some of the best things out of those and applied it to ours. So as you read that, and it's a whole lot of reading, but at the end of the day, it protects the county for using these cards. And that's in a nutshell. That's the goal, is to have the effectiveness of a P card and the ability to use that as electronic transaction tool, and also protect the county's interests as well. So all in compliance with the state of Georgia. As far as our update on where we are there, we applied back in mid to late fall, and the process was timed up with the holidays and of course all the other things that are going on in this world today. And so there's a backlog of the applications, and so they're doing a credit history, name history, and application status have to go through the Bank of America, third-party vendors, and then of course the state has a P-card coordinator. So we've contacted them, and we believe we're on track to meet all of our goals with the P-card program. So what's been discussed with that is to have a platform of maybe one department for this final quarter of this fiscal year. Try that out, get some lessons learned, and then maybe roll that out for the new fiscal year is what has been discussed. So hopefully that's pleasing to you. I think that will be the way ahead for us. Most counties have this as far as our size are a little better. Smaller counties maybe not. But anyway, that's the proposals on those items. And if I know that's a lot, so if there are any questions I can answer here tonight or later on during the week before the next meeting, I'd be glad to answer those.
I've got one. Will this eliminate the need for the credit cards
Yes, sir.
Okay, so those will all be,
Those,
Cancel
those will become an antiquated item.
okay,
So we don't have, there's only 2 that are issued out anyway, and those are to elected officials, constitutional officers. Besides that, the rest of them are housed in finance. But the need for those would no longer exist once we went to the P card system. So,
okay.
Let me ask you,
yes, sir.
we have them at the university, the P cards will only specified people in a department have access to those?
That's correct. So the P card, there's a whole, each person has to apply individually. There's a process for that. The department has, our vision is that the department heads will determine who that individual is for each department that's going to apply for a card, and then go through that process, get them issued. The cards can be turned on and off by the card administrator. That person will be in finance, and they'll go through special training as well. What was the second part of that question?
To follow up on that, the cards would have specific identifications with those, so they're not going to be just shuffled around. Each unique user would have a unique PIN associated with it, so there's no question who spent the card and what they spent it on.
So there'll be a reconciliation pretty quick to.
Yes, that'll be part of their duties as a card holder is to reconcile that. Of course, there'll be training involved, and they can get help from the finance to get that going. But a card holder will be responsible to reconcile that card. Some of them won't be that detailed, but there are a few departments that will have many transactions on that, especially departments that are related in a lot of maintenance activities.
Would the credit limit on each of those, or the limit be different from person to person?
It will be. Each department will have different needs. So some of our larger departments that have millions of dollars of in a budget line item would have a higher need. But the key thing about the P card that is differentiated from the credit is that it's immediate as far as payment is concerned. And the second thing is that you can turn a merchant, call it merchant codes, but if we decide that one department has no need to go and refuel, then fuel wouldn't be allowed on that card or what have you. Maybe buy supplies at a certain vendor, stuff like that. So, reducing risk of, if you lost the card, any kind of fraud, waste, or abuse, not specifically from employees, but if you just drop the card.
Does Commissioner Saxon or Chairman Daniel have a question?
Yeah, this question is for Wes. Wes, how's this going to affect your staff and your organization, and how are you going to accomplish this based on what you were doing versus what you're going to have to do?
Right. Well, we're excited about it. Number one, is going to be a different, but it will be the same administrative work as before. So we have to have certain processes in place. That's why I'm here tonight, to get a few of those approved by the board before we can move forward. And then when the state finishes out their process, then we can roll it out. What it's going to give the department heads is a little more flexibility on their purchases. We'll still have policies in place, but for our staff, really, we're here to support the needs of the department. That's why we exist. So it's not going to affect us in any extra workload or anything like that. If anything, it'll have the opposite effect and streamline the process a little more.
Thank you.
Comments from public comments or? Is this appropriate for the consent item on next week's agenda? So y'all fine with that? Okay.
I have the next item as well. We can roll into that if we would like.
All right, Wes, you're gonna give us the second quarter FY22 financial update.
Yes, sir. Okay. This financial update is for the second quarter of FY22. That's the current fiscal year we're in. So it's the midway point of the fiscal year. So you get a perfect split of your fiscal year. And so a lot of numbers really are easy to look at on a chart. It's from the period July 1st to December 31st of this year. And before I go into it, I want to also be remiss if I didn't say that Oconee County is fiscally sound as I give this pitch tonight. All right, economic indicators, general fund revenue, expenditures, sales tax, and water resources department. Those are the areas that we're going to talk about. Our general fund balance is right now as audited is $18,675,858. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we move into slide 7. And so I don't want to steal my own thunder, but that is what the fund balance is. And then we'll talk about our sales tax and how we're doing there. We're doing great. And then we'll talk about our water resources department. So those are the main 3 areas. General revenue for the second quarter is on track, 79% collected. So our budget was $32,692,229, and revenue collected so far is $25,952,113. And there's various methods of revenue, different areas. From your real property tax to your local option sales tax and a number of other revenue, but we're 79%, so we're in great shape there. These are the different sources that I just talked about: taxes, charges for services, intergovernmental, and investment income. There's only 21% left to collect, so obviously we're well on our way to collecting that for the fiscal year 22. Other finance and resources, this is where we sell some governmental assets, surplus vehicles, equipment, things of that nature. So you can see we're doing a little better than what we budgeted for. So that negative number means that it's actually a positive. So we overachieved in that revenue line item. Expenditures, we're 48% expended, so that's almost perfect. 50% would be right on the nose. So we're in great shape there on our expenditures. So $16 million in expenditures, and that means that your budget is meeting your service levels. These are the areas for the general fund expenditures broken down by each area. So just to visualize that, I'm not going to go through all of that, but we're in good shape as far as each department. There's nobody that's really out of alignment there. Signed fund balance, I said I would go in a little more detail here. So each audit year, as of June 30th, the independent auditor comes in and audits our county government funds, and that is vast. There are, you have your government-wide funds, and then you have your general funds. So the general funds operate at 32 million and change, but your government-wide is much larger in the $53 million range. So you have an assigned fund balance for your general fund. So state requires that to be in the 25 to 30% range. In other words, you have enough funds to operate your government for 90 days. If all revenue stop, that's the requirement for the state. So of the 18 million that we have, some of that is what we call safety fund balance, and that is in that 25 to 30% range. The rest of it is called assigned fund balance. And so that money is not just sitting there, it has a purpose. And so I wanted to go into a little detail on what that purpose was. So it's $8,260,000 and change in that fund. And you can see the various projects that we have. And not only can you see them, but you can visualize them as you drive around the county. So you have the roundabouts, and there's a specific dollar amount there. That's for the engineering of those and other activities for those 2 roundabouts. Then you have the land right-of-way acquisition for a roundabout. Have to have funding for that. Then we have the administrative building roundabout. We've got Malcolm Bridge modified R-cut. You've got Epps Bridge Parkway SR10 lane improvement. We've got a dollar value by each one of those. Mars Hill Phase 2. You see that going on as you travel here maybe tonight. Bishop Farms Parkway, That's an off ramp coming from this North Georgia College over there on 441 South. SR 53 at Union Church Road is a spot that we're looking at. You have to have engineering services there. Hog Mountain Pass, which is sidewalks going in and out of the Hog Mountain Road area. Macon Highway landfill site improvements, continuing to improve that area down there where the customer base down there. Senior Center expansion is a CDBG match, and we're expanding the Senior Center. Most of that's paid by grant, but there was some contributory money. Historic property improvements, joint maintenance facility, our rescue vehicle, half of that was paid for by Presbyterian Homes as a donation, and fixed generators local match. All those total up to the 8.2. You take that, you add that to the safety fund balance, which is currently we sit at 27%, which is a great number. It means we're positioned if something were to happen, we can still operate the government and services. You add those projects together with safety fund balance, that's how you get to the 18 million. Capital projects. These are projects that were budgeted in our current fiscal year, but we did this back in the spring. And so I just wanted to update you as to where we were on those. Public Works, our major paving, we just did a bid for that, I believe last week. And so we're going to select a vendor to move forward with the major paving, and that's going to happen in the spring of 22 as soon as the weather warms. The Public Works equipment that was budgeted has been purchased. All the servers, E911 server is in process of selecting that one. And then some of our other trailers and equipment that we ordered. And then there's two of the vehicles that were funded by the board. They're on order. Sales tax. Sales tax very important to Oconee County, and just wanted to give you a little brief update. Basically, we always compare October, that second quarter, October, November, December of 21 to 22. So you can see that 2 out of 3 months overachieved from what happened before in 21. Our actual year-to-date actuals are 4,253,355. 60% of our revenue has been achieved. Our budget for local option sales tax was 7,142,043. So we're in great shape there. It continues to do well. SPLOST distributions. Same type slide, different tax. This is a special purpose local option sales tax. 57%. There was a different budget on that of 8.4 million. And that's how fast we move the projects along that are approved on the referendum. So there was $8.4 million programmed and for collection, and we're at the 4.8 million on collection. So 58%, 57%. SPLOST referendum completion. We talk a lot about this. SPLOST 04 is gone, spent, gone. No dollars remaining. Last time you heard me talk about it. SPLOST 2009, 100% complete, gone, $0 remaining. Last time I will talk about that one. SPLOST 15, 86% complete. Most of that remains in the water sewer facilities, and there's a plan in place to spend that. The SPLOST 2021, we programmed none of that. That will be a complete year when we do the fiscal year 23 budget, which is coming up this spring. And we've already collected 1.2 million. There are a lot of projects in there that will need to get programmed. And we will have probably in the first time, we will have an opportunity to start that without having any of the SPLOST allocated before we get to it. So it'll actually have some money collected in the bank before we get to it. That's a good thing because we'll have cash fund balance to start off with. This is the status of each 2015 project that was on there. So we've 100% completed a lot of things, as you saw, and there's only a few things that are left to complete. So most of them are in the final stages. And as you saw earlier, 86% complete on that referendum. And That green line means that, we're done or we're near completion. A lot of these projects continue on into the 2021 SPLOST, if the work's not done, farmland protection and, law enforcement facilities and equipment, other great programs like that, library facilities. So we're excited to continue those projects into the future. Current SPLOST projects that are part of the program that we're running now, you got HVAC, which is in process, major system replacement here in the courthouse. Our transportation improvement plan is that paving project I alluded to earlier. The WASI plan is for the water sewer, that's in process, and plans of engineering is being completed now for the plant upgrade. And the fire engine was received, that equipment was received very recently. So, and law enforcement vehicles are in process. So a lot of good things happening there. Water resources, as you know, the Water Resources Department is an enterprise fund. So it works on the ratepayer, and our budget there for the year is $11,816,000. They're 54% collected on the revenue, 6.4 million. And the expenditures are on track also. The expenditures are 5.2, so 39% expended at the Water Resources Department. Their capital projects, basically the vehicles that they have are in process on ordering. These bigger vehicles have a longer lead time. And so that's sometimes you don't just go to the lot, pick one out at 550, you got to order it. So dump trailer has been received. That concludes the financial update for the mid-year second quarter of fiscal year 22. If I could answer any questions for the board or anyone, I'd be glad to do so at this time.
I would just like to make one comment. That,
Yes, sir.
I remember when I came back on the board, there was money in that 2004 and 2009.
Right.
And a compliment to everybody in the county government. Those funds were spent for projects that folks in this county get to use.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate the support of the board, and we're here to support the goals and the policies. And there are a lot of great things happening. These projects are moving.
Wes, I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the general fund expenditures, I know you said that most everybody was on track. The only one that appears not to be is the district attorney.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, that is an allocation. So we give most of that allocation payment up front. And so I don't anticipate that will run over. There are a few expenditures that we pay because it's housed here in the courthouse here, the office, one of the offices of the district attorney. But that should come in on time, on task at the end of the fiscal year. I know it appears with 9%, but we give them an allocation payment for the various things that the board has with the district attorney. So insurance requirements, some other things that they have. Yes,
Thank you.
Chairman or Commissioner Saxon have any questions or comments? Any comments from the public? I assume this does not require any action tonight. Wes, we appreciate the good report very much. We're always glad to have you here when we have a good report.
yes, sir.
All right.
Sorry to take up so much time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving on to countywide matters. The next item is to discuss our clean and beautiful proposed bylaws updates. And it says Cindy Pritchard is going to present. So, Ms. Pritchard.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate that. You should have a memo. We just want to make a few simple changes to our bylaws that'll just streamline and make us a bit more effective. We've tried for a long time to have 12 commission members. Our sweet spot seems to be about 10. So that's the change we would like to make. And then we need to adjust our quorum requirement to meet that. And also our commission term has been 3 years and we feel like 2 might be better. It's kind of a busy, I don't know, people are busy and there's a lot going on and people are mobile and maybe 3 years is a little antiquated for a term limit, so.
Questions? Help me on the terms. There's no limit on reappointments?
No, they just have to roll off, but you know, they can come back on, so they can serve a term and then reapply.
But they can be reappointed
They can.
without stepping down and coming.
They
back.
don't have to step down, but they do have to fill out
Okay.
a, you know, an application to reapply.
Good. Commissioner Saxon or the chairman have any questions? Any comments from the public? Not, are y'all fine with this being on the consent agenda? Yes, sir. All right, okay.
Thank you for your
so
time.
much.
Appreciate it.
All you do.
Thank you.
Our next item is to discuss the 2022 resurfacing bid award. Mr. Woodall.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. And this item of business is our annual resurfacing contract. It was bid. We had 5 bidders respond. And Garrett Paving Company was the low bidder, and their bid was a good bit lower than what was budgeted. The low bid was $1,367,978.84. And on December the 7th, for our LMIG submittal, the board approved a budget of $2,512,800. So you can see we're $1,144,821.16 lower than the budgeted amount. And I have spoken with the contractor, Rick Garrett, to see about adding additional roads. We are in the process of QA/QC our pavement index that the van came out and surveyed the roads. We got that initial report back, so we're QA/QC it. And what we would like to do is, based on that report, pick roads that are in the condition that need resurfacing, and then go up to the budget amount. And so the recommendation would be to award the FY22 resurfacing contract to Garrett Paving with a not to exceed price of the previously approved budget amount of $2,512,800, and authorize the chairman to sign any necessary documents.
Questions? Chairman or Commissioner Saxon have any questions? Any public comment? Sure.
If we're talking about, which I agree with you, would there have to be an additional bid?
No, sir. It's part of our annual contract. And so we can add quantity or remove quantity depending on what the budget amount is. And so it would not have to go back out for bid at that point.
Commissioners, the way to think about this is we submitted certain roads for bid. They came in at 1.3 million. So that is going to be awarded, but the contract is scalable now up to that pre-budgeted amount that will add roads, bring it to you to fill it in from there at sort of that fixed price.
Will that 1.3 million, will that include any, I guess, patching that has to be done prior to the resurfacing?
Yes, it would be for patching and resurfacing. So any of the roads that we had, Simonton Bridge Road, Rocky Branch Road, both sections of it, and Joey Drive. So it would include the patching on those, and then the overlay, and then whatever the report generates is the roads that are needed that we could get in that budget would be the same thing.
No other question. Y'all found out on the consent agenda? All right. Thank you, Jody. Appreciate it very much. Our last report tonight is from Alex. He's going to do double duty. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the key performance indicators.
Thank you, Commissioner Harden. Good evening, Commissioners. I have a brief presentation and update on the county's key performance indicators, or KPIs. So as a part of our county's strategic plan for 2021 to 2024, we have a strategic objective to refine departmental key performance indicators to drive performance management and informed decisions. So in pursuit of that objective, early this fiscal year, staff met with various departments and developed in-depth key performance indicators for each department. Metrics that not only capture the department's activity, which is one of our goals, but metrics that include targets set by the department that capture whether they believe they are succeeding or failing at meeting their own standards of excellence. Now, when I talk about KPIs, we have two broad categories of metrics, and most departments track and report on both categories. The first are performance measures. This is a metric with a target, and a department can succeed or fail to hit their metric for the month. A good example would be, say, turnaround time for purchase orders. There's a metric and there's a target for that metric. The second is a workload indicator. This is a metric without a target that measures the activity of a department. A good example would be the number of people onboarded or offboarded. There's no real target for this data, and it primarily serves to indicate the activity of that department. And in order to more easily review and analyze this data that we collect, staff also developed a KPI dashboard for each department in order for management to see at a glance the KPI metrics for each department. Strange. It has an error. Well, I did have an image of a dashboard, but it is not loading for me. So we have these dashboards that have graphical representations of the data that we collect. And what it does is it really shows graphically with dials and graphical illustrations what the work the department's doing and whether or not they're hitting their own internal targets. And this is really useful for management to be able to see whether departments are thriving and which departments are struggling, and to see potentially useful trends in the data over time. And a brief shout out here, the lion's share of all the work in putting together these dashboards and putting together all the KPIs was done by our operations and projects coordinator, Miranda Barker. Let me see if I can fix whatever error this is so I can move on to the next section of the presentation. Apologize for that, commissioners. Here's actually the dashboard. It seems to have loaded this time. I'm restarting the PowerPoint. As you can see, there's these different dials and different graphic representations of the work orders. Just a reminder too, this is all work in progress and is subject to change, but this is just an easy way for management to see the data that we're looking at. So next up, we've got a brief high-level overview of what we're measuring for each of these 20 departments and some general observations now that we've collected 6 months worth of data. The observations are from these last 6 months, so July 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. For animal services, our KPIs primarily measure new complaint response time, live release rate, shelter capacity, and violation appeals, and some observations. The live release rate for cats is about 90%. And the live release rate for dogs is about 93%. For Board of Elections, we measure timeliness of processing voter registrations, ballot applications, open records requests, and voting statistics. And during election months, some interesting facts here. 50% voted on election day, 46% voted in person in advance, and 4% voted by mailing in absentee ballots. For the Civic Center, we measure usage and booking of the Civic Center and customer satisfaction data, which is one of the things we're working on. We're working on developing this customer satisfaction survey for them, and that'll be it's in development. Will coming soon. For communications, we measure social media, website activity, and an interesting observation is that the county website had 177,000 views. For the county clerk, we measure the timeliness of completing open records requests, accuracy of meeting action minutes, and timeliness of completing other county clerk activities. And the county clerk received 154 open record requests, and all were responded to within 3 business days, and 92% of them were completed within those 3 business days. For EMA, we measure security trainings, compliance with National Weather Service storm ready standards, and code red and IPAWS, and incidents responded to by EMA. And some observations, EMA remained at 100% compliance with code red and IPAWS. For finance, we measure workload and turnaround time for purchase orders, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and other finance activities. Some observations, we received 4,912 invoices year to date. For fire rescue, we measure fire and EMS response time, training, and fire marshal activities. And year to date, we've also had about 1,000 incidents that fire rescue and EMS have responded to. For fleet maintenance, we measure work orders completed, types of work orders, and timeliness of completing work orders. And of those work orders, 46% were reactive and 54% were planned. For GIS, we measure timeliness of completing parcels and special projects. And some observations, we've consistently conceded the KPI target for the average time to complete parcels for GIS. For HR, the KPIs measure completion of onboarding and offboarding new hires and separations. And we track other various HR-related tasks. And there have been a total of 30 new hires and 24 separations in the last 2 quarters. For IT, similar to fleet, we measure work orders completed and types of work orders and the timeliness of completing those work orders. And internal IT and Athens Micro have completed 334 work orders so far. For operations facilities, very similar. We measure work orders completed, types of work orders, timeliness of completing work orders. And we've completed 1.7K work orders so far. For parks and recreation, we measure park facility utilization, park and facility maintenance, program participation, and participant satisfaction. And we've had 365 rentals and reservations, 8.7K participants enrolled in programs, 1.6K user group participants, 13.6K gate check-ins, and the average participant satisfaction from surveys was 92%. For planning and code, we're measuring timeliness of completing reviews, building inspections, notices of violations. And planning and code enforcement completed 3.2K residential building inspections, and the average time to complete new code complaint inspections is 1 business day. For property appraisal, we measure appraisals completed and accuracy of appraisals as compared to ratio measurements and appealable case rulings. And some observations, that we had 2,000 field inspections and 1,100 personal property reviews completed. Public Works, we measure road department work orders, use of collection sites, and response time for litter and dumping concerns. And some observations, the road department completed 600 work orders, and 5% were reactive and 95% were planned. And the average completion rate for all work orders is 8 hours. For the senior center, we measure congregate and home delivered meals, activities offered, outreach efforts, and senior centers delivered or served 2.7K congregate meals, 85 physical activities, and 199 general activities. For tourism, we measure the number of visitors to the Eagle Tavern or the Visitors Center, and we measure the marketing efforts to promote Oconee County. So of the visitors' leads, 58% came from the Oconee County website brochure requests, and 42% came from the Explore Georgia magazine ads. And interestingly, 20% of our film leads have turned into bookings. For water resources, they had a quite extensive list of KPIs they were already measuring, so we mainly lifted from their list. But we measure business operations, training efforts, water consumption, system failures, water and wastewater compliance rates, water cutoffs, and leaks. And year to date, there have not been any failures under the wastewater collection system. So that sums up our KPI update, and I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you, Hal. Any questions?
I'd like to, also, before I had a question, thank Alex and Miranda. They put in a lot of hard work. Also, the departments who are really excited about this project to submit all the data. This is a continual. they were not excited, but they were good sports about it. This is a work in progress and this is gonna evolve. It's not a static process. Our end game goal ultimately is to have some degree of public facing dashboard also on our website. We'll see if we could get there, but it's already been very useful in some of the departments. Some of them we're still working on some of the feeds as far as data to make it simple going forward from the program. But again, I want to thank Alex and Miranda for the great work.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. How often is the dashboard updated with the information?
Yeah, excellent. It's updated every month. So
Every month.
we collect the data monthly, and then Miranda puts up all the new data in the dashboards. We're working on some of them. We're pretty close with a lot of them, just having it automatically update, which is our ultimate objective. But right now we update it monthly.
Now, I know that I'm sure the department heads have access to the dashboard, but what within the departments do the line staff have access to the dashboard?
It's primarily a management tool. So right now only department directors would have access to it, and obviously management
Sure.
for Justin and John. But right now, no, it's intended mainly as a management tool.
Okay. Thank you. All right. If this doesn't require any action this evening, Alex, we appreciate it so much and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Any raised hands? Thank you so much. That was the last item on our agenda for tonight. There is no need for an executive session, so I assume it's appropriate for Commissioner Saxon. You still there?
I'm here.
What do you normally do about now?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, thank y'all very much.